Hi, hello, and welcome to Lily's Library. So today we're going to be going through some of the horror books that are on my TBR that I'm really excited to read. I've done a few horror book themed videos over the past few years, so I'll link them down below, but I've gone through some of my favorite horror books and some horror standalones as well. So we're going to be talking about the ones that I've yet to read that I own physical copies of. I've got a decent sized stack here, so we're just going to go down the pile. Now, the first one, I don't know if this is technically actually classified as a horror book, but it's Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. I got this really nice old mass market paperback edition that I absolutely love, and I've yet to read it. Jurassic Park is actually one of my favorite movies, and I'm kind of ashamed that I've never read the book still, but that's also not that unusual for me, seeing as I've got a lot of favorite franchises that were originally books that I have never read. So there will be another one that you'll see later in this video, but this is one I'd really like to get to soon. Again, I don't know if this is strictly horror or if it's even properly categorized as horror. I'm not 100% sure, but I really want to read it because I know the book is meant to be a lot darker and scarier than the movie is my understanding of it. Next up, I've got a book from one of my favorite horror authors, and that is Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. I've only read 3 of his books, so obviously all of his books are on my TBR, but this is the only one I own a physical copy of that I haven't read. And this is the sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw. This is part of the Indian Lake trilogy. This is book 2. These are slashers that kind of twist slashers on their heads. They're very interesting and a very interesting concept and unique characters. I did really enjoy the first book, although I thought it was very slow paced, but kind of when you got to the end, everything flipped on its head really quickly and I really enjoyed it. So I would really like to get to this one soon. I do have a physical copy of it that my partner gifted me for my birthday or Christmas something recently. So I might read it physically, or I know it's also on Kobo Plus, so I'm also tempted to do it that way. But yeah, these are very just interesting slashers. I feel like they're hard to talk about, but I did really enjoy the first one, and it kind of, is another ultimate final girl book. So I'm very intrigued by this one. The next one is actually one I have started reading and I'm actually halfway through and I paused. I think I'm going to restart it and read it again soon, and that is The Reformatory. This is by Tanana Reeve-Dew. This is a Jim Crow era Florida horror, so it's kind of more about the horrors of people, but there is also haints or ghosts in it. But in this we follow a young boy who is sent to this reformatory for boys after he attacks his neighbor after his neighbor tried to instigate something with his sister and was coming on to her. So he was trying to stand up for his sister, but because he punched a white guy, he has now been sent to this reformatory. So in this, it talks a lot about being a black person, especially a black boy in Florida in the Jim Crow era. We also look at the sister's fight for her brother, as well as all these mysteries and dark things that happened at this reformatory. I did really enjoy what I read. I don't know if enjoy is the perfect word for this, but I did find it really interesting. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, so I think I will restart it. This is another one that is actually on Kobo Plus that I also obviously have a physical copy of, so I'm going to see whether I read it that way or this way, but I think I'm going to restart it soon and read it, and I'll just skip through the bits that I really remember. But I've been thinking about it so much lately and been seeing lots of people reading it again, so I think now is the perfect time for me to pick it up. Next up, we have got a Mexican horror, and that is The Vampires of El Norte. This is by Isabel Canas. She is also the author of The Hacienda, and I think she's got another book that's come out that is a Possession one, but this is the only one of hers that I own, and it's one that kind of most interested me out of the ones that were out when I bought this, and I really want to try and get to this soon, but all I know is that this has to do with vampires and star-crossed lovers that face off in the Texas-Mexico border in a supernatural western, and it just sounds really interesting, and the cover is absolutely stunning. It seems like a very fun and cool horror. I love vampires, so this is one I'm definitely going to hope to get to soon. But one thing of horror I really like, or some subgenres of horror I really like, are Indigenous horror, things like Stephen Graham Jones's books, as well as Bad Cree, as well as ones that have to do with lots of different Mexican folklore or set in Mexico. I feel like there's so much cool elements that they can use, and just because there is so much history to those cultures, there is just so much in them that they can explore, and so many different creatures depending on where in those regions that you are. So I find it to be very fascinating. So I am very intrigued by this one. I'm hoping to try and get to it this year as well. Ideally, I'd like to read all of these books that I talk about this year. We're going to see how we go, because I want to kind of stack my October TBR to be very horror related, but I'm also in a horror mood as I'm filming this, so I'm probably going to read one of them soon. But this is one I'm very excited for. But I might actually just read you the blurb of this one on the back. So it says, as the daughter of a rancher in in 1840s Mexico, Nina knows a thing or two about monsters. Her home has long been threatened by tensions with Anglo settlers from the north. But something more sinister lurks near the ranch at night, something that drains men of their blood and leaves them for dead. Something that once attacked Nena 9 years ago. Believing Nena dead, Nestor has been on the run from his grief since, moving from ranch to ranch, working as a vaquero. I don't know what a vaquero is, but I'll have to check. But no amount of drink can dispel the night terrors of sharp teeth. No woman can erase his childhood sweetheart from his mind. When the United States invades Mexico in 1846, the two are brought abruptly together on the road to war. Nena as a curandera, a healer striving to prove her worth to her father so that he does not marry her off to a stranger, and Nestor as a member of the auxiliary cavalry of ranchers and vaqueros. But the shock of their reunion and Nena's rage at Nestor for seemingly abandoning her long ago is quickly overshadowed by the appearance of a nightmare made flesh. And unless they can work to get through their past and face the future together, neither will survive to see the dawn. So it sounds really interesting. Obviously, my Spanish pronunciation is horrible, but I'm very intrigued by this, and it's definitely one I think I will try and get to soon. Next up is another book I actually bought at the same time as Vampires of El Norte. I ordered both of them from World of Books, and that is The Year of the Witching. This one is by Alexis Henderson. This is one, again, I've been wanting to read for so long, and I've heard really good things about it. I was actually trying to track down this edition of it. For some reason, these books are really difficult to find in Australia. I don't think they've actually been, or this one has actually been properly published here, but I don't believe Isabella Canassa's books have actually been widely published in Australia. So they were a bit of a task to track down, but I'm definitely going to be getting more of her books if I like this. But this is specifically like the US paperback, which I definitely prefer this cover to the UK one, but I'm getting on another tangent. But this is a feminist fantasy book. It is the author's debut novel as well. It says, in the lands of Bethel, where the prophet's word is law, Emmanuel Moore's very existence is blasphemy. Her mother's union with an outsider of a different race cast her once proud family into disgrace. So Emmanuel does her best to worship the Father, follow holy protocol, and lead a life of submission, devotion, and absolute conformity, like all the other women in the settlement. But a mishap lures her into the forbidden dark woods surrounding Bethel, where the first prophet once chased and killed 4 powerful witches. Their spirits are still lurking there, and they bestow a gift on Emmanuel, the journal of her dead mother, who Emmanuel is shocked to learn once sought sanctuary in the wood. Fascinated by the secrets in the diary, she finds herself struggling to understand how her mother could have consorted with the witches. But when she begins to learn grim truths about the church and its history, she realizes the true threat to Bethel is its own darkness, and she starts to understand that if Bethel is to change, it must begin with her. It sounds really good. I'm very interested by this sort of like period in time and stuff that this is obviously inspired by, and I'm very just intrigued by it. It sounds really good, and yeah, I think this is one I might actually start today because it does sound really interesting and is piquing my curiosity at the moment. Okay, next up on my list is another one kind of that relates back to Vampires of El Norte. It's another Mexican horror, and that is Piata. This is by Leopoldo Gaud, and I know he actually has a new book that is coming out or is already out. I don't remember, but there is a new release from this author that is coming out soon. And this one sounds really interesting. It is another possession book that I'm really intrigued by. Possession things aren't always ones I like to read. I definitely prefer things that are more witchy or more about the horrors of people, but this one does sound really interesting as well. It says, it was supposed to be the perfect summer. Carmen Sanchez is back in Mexico supervising the renovation of an ancient abbey. Her daughters Iselle and Luna, too young to be left alone in New York, join her in what Carmen hopes is a chance for them to connect with their roots. Then an accident at the worksite unearths a stash of rare, centuries-old artifacts. The disaster costs Carmen her job, cutting the family trip short. But something malevolent and unexplainable follows them home to New York, stalking the Sanchez family and heralding a coming catastrophe. And it may already be too late to escape what's awakened. And it just sounds really interesting. Like, it gave me goosebumps a bit just reading that, but I'm definitely going to be getting to this one soon. The cover is gorgeous as well. I love how creepy it looks, but one of the reviews on the back here says, this creepy fast-paced read brings a fresh voice to horror. So it sounds really good. I'm very, very intrigued by this one, but yeah, I have heard good things about it. I haven't heard as much about this as some of the other books on this list, but I am very intrigued and excited to pick this one up. Next up, we've got one by a horror author who I really enjoy. He's only got one other book out besides this, but I did have a really good time with it, and I flew through it, and that is Marcus Claywell. This is his new book, The Caretaker. I think this is actually set in the same sort of world and universe as We Used to Live Here, but this one sounds really interesting as well. In this, we follow a young woman who applies for a job that she sees posted and listed in the paper. It's a caretaker that's urgently needed, 3 days of work, competitive pay, serious applicants only. But then I guess once she gets there, she kind of realizes that there's something more sinister happening. Yeah, what starts as a peculiar side gig soon becomes a waking nightmare. An incomprehensible evil may dwell on this property, and Macy Mullins might just be the only thing standing between it and the rest of humanity. So it sounds really good. I've heard a few good things about this. This is a newer release as well, so I don't think I've actually seen too much on it, but it is one that I've recently picked up and I would really like to get to it soon. I had a bit of a flip through as well, and so it does have some similar things to what was in We Used to Live Here, like Morse code and other like little elements to it. So I'm very intrigued. Okay, the next book on my TBR is Slewfoot. This is by Brom. Brom is a really renowned horror author, I think. I actually borrowed this from the library a couple years ago when they had a really gorgeous hardcover, and I started reading it but didn't get very far. So one of my friends very kindly gifted me this copy, and I think we're going to try and do a buddy read in October of it, or September. I got to talk to her still, but it sounds very interesting. This is again a very kind of witchy book. It has to do with witch folklore, and it's set in the wilderness in the woods as well. So similar aspects kind of to the Year of the Witching, but I'll read you the back of this one too. So it says, an ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him father, slayer, protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, devil, demon. To Abitha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. And it sounds very interesting. It sounds cool. I also just realized on the back here, I think you can see it, the really creepy face. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it or it's focusing too well, but the really creepy face on the side there. So I'm very intrigued by it. I love witchy things and things with entities, so I'm very excited to get to this one. It just sounds really great. And then finally, I wanted to talk about Jaws. This is one that has been on my TBR for ages as well. This is a really cool edition that my partner got me for my birthday. I think it was a couple years ago. This is the Folio Society one. That's this gorgeous slipcase with this really chunky shark on it. But yeah, this is obviously Jaws by Peter Benchley. Again, part of a really iconic horror series and movie series that I've always wanted to read. Peter Benchley is a very interesting person to me as well, because he's done a lot of work in the shark conservation field, because after the success of Jaws, specifically I think once they got made into movies, he kind of realized how detrimental it was to sharks, because it obviously started and sparked that really big fear of sharks and great whites, leading to a mass cull, especially in the United States. And since then he's done a whole bunch of conservation work, a shark named after him, which is really fascinating and really cool. I think he's just such an interesting person, and I do love that he kind of tried to reverse the harm that he realized he did and unintentionally did, and try and make right of everything that happened. But yeah, Jaws is an iconic horror. We've got a great white shark that is stalking this beach and slowly picking off people in the community, and they have to go and try and hunt this mega creature and monster. And yeah, one I'm very excited to read, and it's just such a cool edition. I absolutely love this so much. I actually kind of want to display it, but I don't know how I'd want to, because I just love this art so much. It's so cute. Like just a little chubby shark. I don't know. I love shark stuff, so I'm very excited to read this one. I just think it'll be a really great experience. But yeah, that is pretty much it for all the books that are on my TBR. I realized as well that in one of my last horror videos, I forgot to speak about T. Kingfisher, who has got some absolutely phenomenal horror. So stay tuned, because I might make another horror video in a couple of weeks, because I'm planning on getting some more T. Kingfisher books and maybe reading a couple other ones that I have and haven't read yet. So we might do a specific version of this video just kind of for her books. Let me know if that is something you'd be interested in, because I do find her horror to be a lot more accessible and easier to get into if you're not really used to the genre itself. But I feel like I have rambled on enough. Let me know if you have read any of these books that I have spoken about and what your thoughts were, or any horror books you think I should read. But yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.